Welcome. I'm Edwin Rutsch, and Director of the Center for Building a Culture of Empathy. And this is a sample empathic listening session. I've been inviting different empathic listeners from different traditions, from the empathic listening traditions, from therapy, from focusing, from human-centered design, and from nonviolent communication and other traditions to offer empathic listening to me on the theme of my writer's block. So this will hopefully give you a variety of approaches that you can take a look at and compare in different styles from different listeners. And Don, you're the one who's going to be listening to me today and for the next 30 minutes or so. And would you like to introduce yourself and the approach that you want to use?
Sure. My name is Don Browne. I have been studying happiness and empathy, compassion for a number of years in meditation. I currently am teaching Tai Chi Chuan to seniors to help them prevent falls and develop their strength, and doing a little bit of meditation along with that group of seniors twice a week. So today I thought I would do with Edwin some listening and reflecting what I've heard, making sure that Edwin feels heard, and incorporating some feelings of what our body might be doing in association with various emotions. And I might question Edwin on what emotion he might be feeling or what I'm sensing to see if I'm correctly sensing the same emotion that he is actually encountering.
Okay. You can start. Just lead away. What would you like me to do?
Okay. Well, I've read some of your background, Edwin, and in the past you've been a writer and wrote at least one book that I recall. I think several, and a world traveler as well. And how are you feeling about your writing nowadays? Do you still feel comfortable writing, or any comments on your writing?
Yeah, I had actually written 3 books. They were computer-related books back in the 80s when I was in the computer fields, and when PC clones were first kind of coming on the market, and I wrote 3 books, buyer guides and handbooks on about how to buy and use your computer. And I wrote them and actually published them, and it was like really painful process, the writing. It's like the writing's always been rather a painful process, and I think it still is, and that's kind of what I'm trying to kind of deal with now, kind of get over, is this it's sort of a block. I just it's like I'm wanting the writing to be pleasant and fun and enjoyable, and instead it's like painful, tedious, anxiety producing, and so that's basically where I am. And so I thought, we can have different listeners listen to me and see if I can overcome these blocks. So that's kind of where I am now. It's like, how do I overcome these blocks to the writing?
Yeah, I hear that in the 80s you wrote 3 books on computer-oriented topics. That was kind of the beginning of the PC world back then. But even then, you were feeling it was painful to do the writing, and even to this day seems painful. And you mentioned not only painful, but anxious, and there was some other description in there that you were feeling. And I was trying to differentiate the difference in the feeling of your pain in doing the writing and the anxiety, and maybe that other descriptor that you had.
Yeah, it's what is it? It's like when I sit down to write, it doesn't just flow. It's like, I got to do this writing. It's like I'll write some. It's like I don't like what I'm writing. It's like there's not a sense of flow. It's like a kind of a constriction. It's like just like a general, sort of a blockage of the energy, and it's it's uncomfortable. It's painful. Yeah, I get a reflection on that.
Yeah, when you use the feeling of painful thing, the words don't flow, and you mentioned that you don't like what you're writing.
Mm-hmm.
Could you just, if that's correct, could you describe, Edwin, what kind of, do you have any physical feelings of pain when you're doing that in your body, when you're writing and feeling that?
The physical, let's see if it's, what is a felt experience? I'm just imagining sitting down, writing, and there's just a sense of like constriction in this part of my body. It's like, it's this general constricted anxiety, kind of impatience. I think impatience is a big part of it. It's like I just don't have the patience for like writing and rewriting and going over. I'm sort of wanting things just to flow, kind of come out without all this kind of effort and anxiety. That's kind of the desire I have, and I'm not getting it. It's like this anxiety feeling kind of in the front here. So that's what kind of comes up.
Yeah, I hear that you feel constricted when they don't flow, the words don't flow. You have this, in your body language, you're motioning to your trunk as if maybe you feel, I don't know, but you can correct me. Do you feel like a tightness in your chest area or breathing when you're feeling this constriction by any chance?
Yeah, I would say there's more shallowness of breath. In a previous session, I do know that being heard, there was a point where I kind of just opened up. I could feel the opening of my breath, kind of breathing deeper, and there is sort of a shallowness of breath involved in that. There was something else that came up kind of as I was hearing the reflection back, is that one place where I do feel I write like better and clear is when I'm in conflict with someone. Like if I'm kind of having an argument with someone and they're sort of attacking me, that I can get very clear and very sharp and sort of respond to their attack and very clearly articulate a response. Right? It's kind of like I have to feel like I'm being attacked in some way. And then there's this sense of clarity, a sense of the sharpness, an edge to the writing. There's a clear organization to the writing. But if I'm just not, if I don't have that threat against me from someone else that I'm responding to, then it's just like this openness. There's this vague open, almost like a vague open pit, and it's just like something coming out. Then is supposed to come out. Then I kind of like struggle with it. It just, everything feels kind of vague, kind of, it doesn't feel clear. It's just a general struggle. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you tell that you seem to write more clearly, and when someone's attacking you, when you feel attacked, somehow it triggers something that makes you come to the point.
Mm-hmm. And write very clearly. I find there's a sense of clarity, a sense of direction, and I kind of like the writing. It's like I think, oh, I really hit the points. I really made it clear. So at that point, yeah, I do actually, but
Yeah.
it's just in that one situation. So,
So when you feel attacked, you do write clearly, and you come to the point of your writing. Now, you did say at the end there, at least that one time. What do you mean by that?
I'm not quite sure what you mean there, but that's in general. I have these periodically. I mean, it's not that often, but I've had that sort of situation, but it's not just one time that's happened. It's happened, multiple times. So that's the one sense of clear writing. And then there's when I'm not attacked, when it's just like I have to write, I gotta, put, like I need to write some stuff now for the training association, Empathy Training Association. I'm kind of putting it off. I feel, I need to write about how we're going to go forward. And I just feel like, I just feel like unmotivated to do it. There's like no motivation. I feel kind of torn. Like there's like a feeling that, I need to do this, but that I just, I could sort of don't, I need to do it. I'm kind of pushing myself, and underneath is, I just don't feel motivated to do it. So I don't do it. So I've got this kind of stress from feeling I need to do it, and then not wanting to do it as well. So I've got the two, and then I'm kind of just not doing it. So I'm just kind of avoiding it.
Yeah, so I hear that the situation you described of feeling attacked has happened more than once, or probably numerous times.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're feeling that you need to do the writing, but on the other hand, you just don't have the motivation to do it. So it's kind of both ends of the scale there.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not feeling attacked in this situation. It's not, there's nobody attacking me. It's just something I've got to do. I just don't feel very energized to do it. It's just like, it's not fun. It's not enjoyable. It's like, I want to be writing, I have this desire or need for an enjoyable process, an enjoyable experience. And, it's kind of not really happening. One thing I have been doing is looking more at felt experience, is like writing from felt experience. I was looking at some of the work from the focusing, community, which is like an empathic listening, self-connection, and connecting to others around felt experience. And there's something in that in terms of writing from the felt experience. And there is something that was like an event that happened that sort of ties into this. Is I did something called singing Gestalt once. And you have a little music, someone plays the piano, and you just sing from whatever comes up to you in the moment. So it's like spontaneous, improvised singing. And I was so nervous about the singing, about getting up in front of other people and improvising a singing. But I did it, and I was singing, and I was singing about the anxiety that I was having. And I just kind of really let it belt. And I was like Pavarotti. It was just like, it was amazing. And it was like, there was this experience of singing about my experience, really letting it belt out. It was not like constricted. It was just like Pavarotti, throwing it out there. I'd never done something like that before. And I felt like I was at the constant edge of a horizon. Like there's always something coming over the horizon. I don't know what's going to come over the horizon. And whatever comes is like terrified what's going to come. But I'm going to stay there at that horizon and just sing whatever that experience is. And it was quite an exhilarating experience, and somehow that ties into the writing. I want the writing to be sort of creative, singing, writing about what's on the horizon of my experience. So I don't know if that's quite a bit to reflect there, but
yeah, well, I hear you tell of your experience of attempting to overcome the block, and you were trying some failed experiences, and you came upon the idea of singing and just improvising some words and music, and you sang out loud some of your feelings, and that seemed to bring you to a place where you felt some release, it seems.
It was a real creative sort of edge that I was at. And
yeah, so the singing brought you to this creative understanding or edge, and you thought you might be able to incorporate that idea with your writing, because you want to have the same experience of going to the future, to this over the edge type of experience. Were you? I almost sensed, Edwin, as you were describing that, the sense of joy. Was there any sense of that in there?
It was like terrifying. It was like a sense of being terrified, because it was in a workshop with a bunch of people in it. So I'm like singing in front of people. There's a person on a piano. So it was like highly stressful, being on performance. But I was like at this edge of experience. So it was like quite thrilling in that sense. It was like terrifying, but yet, quite thrilling too, because I just let it out. It was just like, I'm not kidding. It was like somebody told me, who'd been doing this a long time, says, that's the best first performance I've ever seen, because I was like totally like Pavarotti. I mean, I'm a kid. I never sung like that. Pavarotti, the deep voice, and it's just like filling the whole space. So it was really quite a profound experience from that sense. Very memorable experience.
Yeah, so I hear you were doing it in a group with a piano, and on one hand, you said it was very terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine that. I don't know that I would be able to sing in front of a group like that. But on the other hand, you said it was thrilling.
Yeah.
Can you tell me more? Because it seems to be one side and the other side within a minute or something, within maybe seconds. Can you describe what was going on?
It's all kind of mixed in together, because maybe to be at that edge is thrilling, because it's like the edge of my awareness of what is coming up, from the deep recesses of my spirit or soul. And I don't know, if something's coming up, and I'm in the moment of it arising. So I'm not, and it's like scary. It's scary about, what, am I going to be seen as a fool? But, but I was also singing from the anxiety and the fear. It was like at the edge, but also, that sense of anxiety was coming out too. So I was like sharing that in the singing. So yeah, it was that was really quite a lot to sort of hold. I think with this process, like focusing, is going into the felt experience, but maybe not needing to be quite so dramatic or so on the edge. So there's something about that. There's that quality of going into the felt experience that is kind of like the direction I'm wanting to go, but it's like the rewriting. Like there, I didn't rewrite. Like it's just like going into the moment, and the moment being this improvised moment. And the thought of like writing, and you write, and you got to go through and rewrite, and then rewrite again. and I just hate that. I just hate the, you know, it's just like, it's the, it's the tedium of kind of going back and re-editing, you know, kind of which I really need to do, but just kind of, that's kind of getting to the one part of the process of, so I've got the anxiety now of like writing, and then there's just the hating of the rewriting process, you know, so it's just that kind of that anxiety is kind of coming into the writing in general. So yeah, a reflection of that would be helpful.
Yeah, well, at first I heard you were describing the singing experience, the felt experience. It was the anxiety coming up to this edge, and then comparing that to your writing process, where you do the writing, and then you're coming up to the idea, the point where you have to rewrite.
Yeah.
That's not an easy thing for you to get through.
Yeah, I feel really impatient with it. It's like, oh, I just don't want to rewrite this. I don't want to. And then there's another quality that's kind of like pushing me, like, well, this has to be, you know, think of the reader. It needs to be organized. It needs to be easy to read. It needs to be, you know, simple. It needs to be step by step, kind of makes sense. So there's something, there's something about it too that maybe the writing, I don't know, there's something, just in what saying that about thinking of the reader, there's something in that, you know, in terms of, I think with all the anxiety and all that, I'm kind of getting wrapped up in myself, you know, somehow. It's like, there's sort of a self-centeredness within that, and there's something about just thinking about the reader. I think there's something in that in terms of kind of going forward. Like I needed something about a relationship, you know, being aware of and in relationship with the reader. I mean, it's just it kind of came up, kind of looking at that. Like there's something in a need to be more aware of the reader and the relationship I have with the reader, and maybe more care too, like maybe more of a sense of, instead of just being concerned with my own, you know, with my own anxiety, be concerned with care for the reader.
Yeah, I hear you talking about the feeling of impatience when you're rewriting, and that you seem to care about the reader because you want to make what you write clear and to the point, and you seem to say that there's some sense that you care about the reader. So
yeah, it's sort of, I'm feeling like a little bit of care. Just as I was saying that, I was feeling a little bit of care, that feeling of care, which is like a sense of warmth for the reader, sort of an awareness of the reader and a sense of warmth. And it kind of like opened up a little door, just sort of opened up. I could just feel that little warmth and care, feeling of care. And I'm thinking going forward, there's something in that of like, oh, that's maybe a direction to go, is to follow that sense of care for the reader, you know, when I'm writing, to think, oh, have care for whoever is reading this. I have care for you.
Yeah, so you have a feeling of care for the reader, and that is giving you a sense of warmth for that process of actually caring for the reader, doing something for the reader, and that's warming you up, giving you a sense of maybe physical warmth, mental warmth, emotional warmth.
I can even feel it's kind of in this area here, is this sense of warmth. And it's also that thinking, being aware of the relationship, that we're in a relationship here. You know, and I'm noticing that when I have the anxiety, it's kind of like all about me, And it's not so much about what's the relationship that we have here. So there's something about feeling into what is the relationship that we have here.
Yeah, so you've noticed when your anxiety is coming out, it may be you're thinking about you, and then
Yeah.
personally, when you think about the reader and caring for the reader, that relationship between you, your writing, and the reader kind of opens it up and gives you that sense of warmth that alleviates the discomfort of the anxiety when you think of relationship.
And to think that it's like, oh, think more of care for the reader, and that I'm in a relationship here, and here, what is the quality of the relationship that I'm wanting to care for you as the reader. So there's something about that to just be aware of that.
Yeah, so there's something about caring for the reader and that relationship, and you mentioned the quality of the relationship.
Yeah, that the relationship is a quality of care, and that quality of care is I feel that sense of warmth. Yeah, so to bring that sense of warmth, which makes it a lot more fun. I mean, the warmth is a lot better than kind of this sharp anxiety, and heaviness. So.
Yeah, so the idea of caring, in this case for the reader, is a lot better than the opposite of not caring, where you have that anxiety coming.
Exactly, yeah, and the anxiety is just sort of a self-centeredness to the relationship, maybe something like that. So
yeah. So the anxiety is a sort of self-centeredness.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I think that's a good closing point, for this sample listening session. So I think that was like a new insight for me, was that sense of care and being aware of that, going forward. So I feel that was a good insight. So thank you for that. Or if you have anything in terms of closing that you'd like to say.
Yeah, I thought that was very instructive to listen to you. At the beginning of, I don't know, maybe the first 10, 15 minutes, I was feeling some real, because you didn't seem comfortable, or maybe I wasn't comfortable, so who knows. But then as it went on, especially when you mentioned the idea of warmth, then there was a trigger right there. I mean, it was just noticeable to me that when you started talking about warmth, the relationship with the reader, the caring for the reader, and use that word care a lot, warmth a lot, and there was just a switch right there. So I thought that was an important thing to notice.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Don, and that's the end of this session.